Thank God it's Full Build Friday, where we have landed in the land of legends for my latest build. This is actually a rebuild that you, my lovely viewers, voted on, and you can actually vote on the poll for the next rebuild over on the post. Before you go though, let's look at League's Lavender Lady, Lulu the Fey Sorceress.
Pleased to meet you.
Now, the first step in doing so is looking at some build goals for her, which we can get right into. Some time ago, Lulu was a caring Yordle who was led into the spirit realm by a trickster Fae. This very Fae ended up befriending Lulu, and the realm amplified her magical powers. Eventually, she returned to Runeterra, and took to pranking people across its lands with her powers of transmogrification. More mechanically, she's an enchanter who bolsters her allies while hindering her foes, all with a magical staff that she wields. Passively, Pix, her fairy companion, fires a barrage of bolts whenever she makes a basic attack, though Pix also helps her with her Glitter Lance ability, launching a beam alongside Lulu and slowing enemies hit by either beam. Lulu's Whimsy can be cast on friend or foe, granting attack and movement speed to the former while turning the latter into a harmless animal or even object for a short duration. Similarly, Help Pix can either damage and reveal an enemy, or attach to an ally to shield them and give them Lulu's passive effect. Rounding out her abilities is Wild Growth. This ultimate enlarges a target, knocking up nearby enemies and providing that target with bonus health. She does something similar in Legends of Runeterra, where she empowers her supported ally, or can use a spell to either shield an ally or make a foe vulnerable. Altogether, Lulu is all about those buffs, but she's almost equally about debilitating enemies. We do want to work in some damage, mostly due to her Glitter Lance, and I want to make sure Pix is a prominent portion of her package. We're looking for shields, speed-ups, and power-ups for her allies, while she throws slows, polymorphs, and other interruptions on her enemies. Moving forward with those ideas, we're actually going to stick to some of my original concepts, such as the Gnome ancestry and its Fae-touched heritage. I'm going to lean as much as I can into the Fae theming, which is why I'm also taking up the Fae Fellowship ancestry feat, as she's a bit more familiar with their practices and customs. As a gnome, she has a boost to Constitution and Charisma, but also takes a flaw to her Strength. Notably though, she has a free boost that will take to her Intelligence for a little something that will be changing for this remastered build. Her background should be familiar, as I also use the Fae-bound option in her original build as well. This makes her trained in Fae lore, but doesn't provide her with any other skills or skill feats. Instead, she gains the Fae's Fortune free action, letting her attempt a skill check twice and use the better result once per day. It also provides her with an ability boost to Charisma, and then she takes a free boost to her Intelligence once again, making her smarter than her scatterbrain style of speaking suggests. We do get our first big change in this rebuild though, by using the Witch class in place of the Sorcerer, despite her title. While I do think that the Charisma of the Sorcerer fits her better than the Intelligence of the Witch, the increased focus on the familiar that the Witch provides will be handy in representing Pix, and there's a few other aspects I like here as well. As a quick note, I want to give mention to Familiar Focus, Flyer, and Spell Delivery for the Familiar Master powers, with the last of those being a good way to give those such terrain buffs and represent her abilities. Getting more into Lulu specifically, I think I went with the wrong spell list in my original build, so this time around I want an Occult Patron, and I think with all her debuffs, she can probably get the most use out of the Resentment Patron, even if the flavor doesn't quite fit her. This makes her familiar one of ongoing misery to extend the duration of debuffs, whereas the Evil Eye cantrip gives her a way to consistently inflict Sickened, which is an amazing condition. As for the actual spell she'll start with, I like a mix of Figment for pranks, Infectious Enthusiasm for buffs, and Phase Bolt for damage when it comes to her cantrips. For her first rank spells, I'd mainly look at options to debilitate foes and bolster your allies, with special mention being given to Endure. This is something you'll likely want to heighten as she levels, as it can be used to represent both the shield of her Help Pix and the extra health granted by her Wild Growth. With the Resentment Patron, Lulu will get trained in Occultism, and will take further training in Acrobatics, Deception, Nature, Performance, Stealth, Survival, and Thievery. For her ability boost, we'll bolster her Strength, Dexterity, Intelligence, and Charisma. I'm honestly just taking that Strength boost to fix her penalty here, something which I really don't like having, but Intelligence will be the main thing you want to focus on, as it helps all the spells that she'll be casting on others. we'll start exploring this new witch class with Enhanced Familiar at 2nd level, providing our partner Pix with damage avoidance for reflex, which is honestly probably the greatest danger to familiars, and then partner in crime, so that it can help Lulu pull off her pranks. I do want to explore those more with her skill feats, but we will actually be starting with Root Magic, an occultism skill feat that is about providing our allies with a bonus against certain dangers, just in general fitting with Lulu's role as an enchanter that supports and protects her team. At the 3rd level for this Mistress of Myriad Mischief, we find a lonely skill increase that makes her an expert in performance, as well as the Fleet General feat just to make sure that she can keep in range of her allies to share her buffs with them. Fortunately, there is a little bit more to this level as it allows her to tap into 2nd rank spells. Inner Radiance Torrent is a damaging option that can be fired in a line to resemble her Glitter Lance, while Loose Time's Arrow lets her speed up her entire team, per the movement speed up of an allied Whimsy. I'll also toss Veil of Spirits into the ring, because I have a feat here in a few levels that will be able to take advantage of the dazzled condition that this creates. Before we get there though, Lulu has a class feat at 4th level, and while I was able to hold back for at least one level, we are archetyping into a Sorcerer dedication with this one. Obviously, we'll be selecting the Fey bloodline, and taking the skill increases this provides to Athletics and Diplomacy. It also comes with a pair of cantrips, and I think Rousing Splash is an important one to bring to mind, as another way to create a Help Pix-esque shield for her allies. Speaking of, she can also use Distracting Performance as her skill feat, to create a diversion with performance and then apply the effects of that success to an ally rather than her, maybe letting her ADC make a quick getaway as she confounds their foes. For the 5th level of our Fey-focused Flanger of Phantasmagoria, we feature ability boost to Dexterity, Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma. As a witch, she gains Magical Fortitude, as well as a skill increase to make her an expert in occultism. She further gains an Ancestry feat and can use Razzle Dazzle to make spells like her Veil of Spirits a little bit more effective. This level also has 3rd rank spells, which features some real classic buffing spells along the lines of Heroism and Haste, with the latter being another good way to cover the speed enhancement of her Help Pix. Alternatively, she could finally get the slow of her Glitter Lance through the spell of the same name. As for Lulu's 6th level, she takes basic Sorcerer spellcasting for one very specific reason. It allows her to add the Enlarged spell to her repertoire, something that the Occult spell list doesn't actually have access to. This is obviously important for representing her Wild Growth ultimate, and it's going to be signatured for future use. With her skill feat, she'll take Bon Mot as another way to represent the pranks that she loves to pull off, though, as with other builds I've used this for, it might also resemble the non sequiturs that she tends to spout off. As a quick side note, Pix does get another familiar ability here, and Touch Telepathy would probably be a good way to facilitate communication between the two. By 7th level, Lulu becomes an expert spellcaster, as well as a master in the performance skill. Incredible Initiative, her general feat, means that she can get a leg up in combat, and get her spells to bolster or befuddle others out before they can act. With that covered, there's only spells left for the level, but I wouldn't say any of them really stand out to me. Just take the debuffs and buffs that work best for you. Looking at lovely Loopy Lulu's level 8, we're taking Spirit Familiar as a way to enhance Pix. This gives our familiar a way to deal damage, to be a bit more active in the combat itself, just as he is in League, and it also comes with a damaging effect to an enemy while healing allies, which just kinda fits with Lulu's whole vibe. Then she's got Dirty Trick, simply as yet another way to pull pranks and put perpetrators of perturbance into peril. She doesn't invest as heavily into thievery, but this is still pretty useful, and having a way to make enemies clumsy that isn't a spell is great. Level 9 is pretty basic, with reflex expertise and a skill increase to nature, making her an expert of it for the sake of her sorcerer spellcasting. First World Adept can serve as her ancestry feat, simply letting her harness more magic of the Fae, even if the spells it provides aren't quite a fit for her. There is a notable spell here though in the form of Synesthesia, which is entirely based on a certain classic line that she is well known for.
Yep, that tasted purple.
With level 10, we start with ability boost to Dexterity, Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma once more. With that intelligence boost, she gets to become trained in crafting, and then she picks up Witch's Charge. She has a few buffing spells with a limited range, such as Endure, Enlarge, and Heroism, so this is a handy way to spread those buffs without putting her in danger. We do also continue to build on her performance skill with Fascinating Performance, allowing her to full-on fascinate fools with her dances, songs, and likewise alone. This is another reference to her pranks and the like, as I did say I tried to accomplish that with her skill feats and a few spells. Witches become experts in perception and with their weapons at 11th level, which also features Lulu becoming a master of nature with her skill increase. Toughness as her general feat increases her survivability to make sure that she can keep providing buffs. Or, in the case of what she gets this level, a cursed metamorphosis. This is obviously an important part of Lulu's kit when it comes to representing her whimsy as it functions against enemies. Though, honestly, her whimsy might go a bit beyond this, since she can turn champions into just about anything. But it's still the best fit to her classic character. We, or at least I, want some more primal spells, so we're going to take Expert Sorcerer spellcasting at 12th level. Notably, this lets Lulu use 4th rank spells, which will let her embiggen a creature up to a huge size. We stick with the primal theme for Influence Nature as her skill feat, and letting her manipulate whatever environment that she finds herself in. She can also add spellcasting as Pix's familiar ability, getting this feisty fae to fight on its own with a range of spells that you'll probably use to resemble either her passive or the Glitter Lance ability. Then comes level 13, which has defensive robes, weapon specialization, and a skill increase that makes her a master in occultism. I went for Illusion Sense as her ancestry feat because the preposterous pranks of this pixie pal have made her better at recognizing others trying to do the same to her. For our level 14, Bloodline Breath simply gives more spells for Lulu to foul up foes or pump up her pals, especially getting some more enlarges in there, and then she also takes Disturbing Knowledge. It is meant to be yet another means by which she can debilitate her enemies, and you could certainly flavor it as more of her pranks, though these ones are maybe a bit meaner than usual. To start off level 15, we have ability boost to Dexterity, Constitution, Intelligence, and Charisma. As a witch, she makes it as a Master Spellcaster, and also becomes a legend in Performance. I went with Incredible Investiture as her general feat this time around, figuring that the power boost that she got from the Spirit Realm might have let her wield more magic in general. As for level 16, the shenanigans spreading Sylvan Scamp seizes a greater lesson, which will obviously be used to take a Lesson of Mischief. This provides her with Mad Monkeys as a witch spell, which is great, but I wish Deceiver's Cloak was just a bit more pranksterish. On the topic of spells and such, Bizarre Magic feels like a solid skill feat for her. I think it fits with the fact that her magic comes from the Spirit Realm, so those of the material plane might not be quite as familiar with it. With her 17th level, she gains the Will of the People class feature, and also becomes a legend in nature, setting up her next level's feat. Before we can worry about that though, we do have her ancestry feat, and obviously it has to be Homeward Bound. This interplanar teleport lets Lulu make the trip to the Spirit Realm to visit her favorite fairy friends, and then come back again. Looking at a level 18, we've got Master Sorcerer Spellcasting, which is entirely based on just getting her more primal spells, which I admittedly haven't been talking about a bunch. I would primarily suggest looking into buffing spells with this, as her DCs are going to be a little behind, and thus not quite effective at debuffing as her witch spells. She can also grab Break Curse for her skill feat. She's mostly about enhancing her allies, but removing the inflictions on them could work as well, and might be thought to be akin to her buying a Mikhail's Blessing. We're a step away from the end with level 19, where Lulu gains her Patron's Gift and becomes a legendary spellcaster, as well as a legend in occultism. I landed on fast recovery for a general feat this time, as it's honestly pretty standard for the league builds that I've done, since health regen is an innate part of the game. That does bring us to level 20, and while it is the end, we will start with ability boost to Strength, Constitution, Intelligence, and Wisdom. That final boost to Intelligence does mean that we can become trained in Arcana, before we wrap up her class feats with Patron's Truth. This just provides us with more spells, which I am always down for, and then she closes it all out with Morphic Manipulation. This feat allows her to exert more power over nature, causing plants to grow big quickly, which I suppose we do kind of see a little bit in her Legends of Runeterra level up animation. As for playing this build, Lulu does have a heavy focus on enhancing her allies, but you'll want to couple that with throwing out some penalties and conditions on enemies when you can. This is, in general, the best way to play such characters. Give bonuses to your team, minuses to their targets, and create those big swings to make it easier for critical effects to land. You will have a few damaging spells and the like while you're at it, but I try to launch those after some of your debuffs have hit first. Along that line, you could even use non-resource consuming debuffs first, such as Evil Eye, Banmo, or Disturbing Knowledge, and then launch those spells or the bigger debuffing spells to drag your enemies down. I think we got most of what we wanted out of the Sorcerer archetype already, but in a free archetype game, maybe you could get a basic bloodline spell for Fairy Dust as another way to debilitate enemies. Beyond that though, I'd probably look at the Familiar Master or Familiar Sage archetypes, which could be some great ways to make picks even more prominent. Along this line, you could also consider a Scion of Demora archetype, but I don't think this one fits Lulu or picks quite as well. I think we've got this enchanter fully built, but do we really, or am I just a fool for the Fae? Let's look at what we've put together and find out. Lulu the Fae Sorceress is actually a Fae-touched gnome witch with a resentment patron and a Fae-bound background, which calls to mind how she was drawn into the spirit realm before eventually returning to Runeterra. I endeavored to explore her penchant for pranks with the likes of Banmo, fascinating performance, and perhaps even disturbing knowledge. The occult spell list that she gains from her patron affords her a host of spells to both help her allies, while also hindering her foes, and the witch itself will help her empower Pix to better serve as her battle buddy. When it comes to Pix's passive power, we have the likes of Spirit Familiar or the Spellcasting Familiar ability as a way to let it get in the fray, which should also work for representing Glitterlance as well. Cursed Metamorphosis represents the effects of Whimsy when used against an enemy, while Haste pretty effectively covers the ally aiding aspects of it, granting an extra action that can be used for attacks or movement. Now, not to overuse this, but I think Spirit Familiar is another solid fit for Help Pix, as it both damages and then heals an ally, which kind of resembles both aspects of the ability. Though, she does also have the Endure spell to provide her allies with a shield for that aspect in particular. By tapping into her Sorcerer archetype, she can gain Enlarge and can heighten it to create the effects of her Wild Growth, which does have some similar ideas to her Legends of Runeterra card, though Heroism also represents that a little bit as well. Perpetually puckish, this pixie-powered purple people pleaser propels the potential of her pals to preposterous peaks while perpetrating potent pranks against problematic people. Let me know what you think of this build, as well as what other sorts of builds you'd like to see in a comment. If you like what you see here and want more, check out the new Patreon I started, and be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. You can also check out the blog, which is linked below along with the Twitter and Discord. As always, thanks for watching, and have a fantastic Friday.
Drop your weapon, you little...